Muller and Timu. And here we are on our left, Timu Halonen from Finland, playing Titan Shift, and Martin Muller on your right, playing Blue-Red Storm. Because Timu was 4th placed in the standings and Martin was 5th, he gets to start off with a stomping grounds, whereas Martin Muller's on the draw starts with Island Serum Visions. Who do you think is favorite in this matchup, Simon?
Well, Maren, you asked me which of these decks is considered fair. I think Titan Shift is a comparably fair deck. It also doesn't have the blue counter magic that other Scape Shift decks used to have, whereas Blue-Red Storm is just trying to win super fast, basically turn 3, sometimes turn 4 with Gifts and Given fueled combo. And here I have to say Martin Muller should be favored just on pure speed and power level.
And a turn 2 Sakura Triballer gets sacrificed right away, whereas Martin Muller, he decides to go with a turn 2 Goblin Electromancer, hoping to stay alive, but it seems no long for this world. A Lightning Bolt gets that away.
And that was important for Timo. He needs to get those creatures off the battlefield. The bad thing is, or the difficult thing is, Martin really needs only one of them to go off, and there are 8 in the deck, so are you going to kill all of them with lightning bolts? I don't think so.
Yeah, unless you do draw more lightning bolts than your opponent does from the Goblin Electromancer. Or, oh, another copy, there we see it. Famous for being one of the better decks in Commander, of course. Baral gets killed by another lightning bolt. So, as you said, are you going to kill them all with the lightning bolt? Seems like
apparently yes.
That's the plan.
Apparently yes. Now, if you can follow that up with a Primeval Titan, then suddenly Martin Muller is the one in trouble.
Yeah, but it seems like Goblin Electromancer, another one from Martin Muller, of course, Zealous Persecution from one of the earlier rounds, not the card. Now, Kalni Heart Expedition, not the best of plays when you don't have any more lands to play.
Well, at least there is a fetch land on the battlefield.
So that's 1 land, you need 3 for Kalni Heart Expedition to actually be able to sacrifice. There we have it, landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, you can put a quest counter on it. Removing 3 quest counters and sacrificing it will net you 2 basic lands to put into the battlefield tab. In the meantime, Martin Muller just attacking for 2 with his Goblin Electromancer, and plenty of Goblin Electromancers. He has a 3rd copy, now 2 on the battlefield, meaning that all of his instant and sorceries get 2 cheaper. Martin Muller has quite the slow draw, it seems, but Timu Halonen not the fastest draw either.
No, the big question is, does Timo have Primeval Titan? Can he land it here? And Martin is already ready with the Remand. Of course, Remand even better with Baral, but casting for 1 mana is really, really dirty.
Timo untaps with his 5 lands. He finds a Farseek. No 6th land yet. Let's see if Martin Muller is going to remand that one. No, he knows he needs to wait for something bigger to remand. He's not in a hurry as long as he's at 17. And there's not enough lands for example, double Scape Shift to happen.
Keep in mind that you can also remand your own Grape Shot. So remand actually serves a double purpose in these Storm decks. Just like Goblin Electromancer serves a double purpose of reducing the cost of your spells and beating down for 2.
Yes, indeed. It seems like Martin Muller is already doing some counting. Ritual, Simian Spirit Guide. I can go past in flames. That's some storm. He doesn't even need to write it down. He's been doing this all day, all weekend, I'd say. Brought himself to a 13-2 record, only 2 losses so far for this young Danish man. He only needs to deal 13 if he attacks first. Here we go, Goblin Electromancer puts his opponent at 13 life. Can he manage enough storm to finish off this turn? Kind of dangerous. If he waits another turn, his opponent will have 6 to go for Primeval Titan, but as we know, there's still the remand.
Yeah, the remand is probably the reason to wait if you cannot guarantee 13 points here.
And we do indeed see a go from Martin Müller.
If you draw a Gifts Ungiven with the remand, you can even cast it.
And I think Timu might have drawn the perfect land there. He drew a Valakut, which will make sure that he gets to kill these Goblin Electromancers, right? Summoner Spec gets played. Let's take a look at my library. I can search for the green creature. Just gotta make sure I pay for next turn. There we go, Valakut. And there we see the Primeval Titan. Remand. But there's still the Kalni Heart Expedition, right?
Yeah, and shouldn't Timo have killed the Goblin Electromancers in response to the remand?
And the reason for that is Gifts Ungiven?
Yeah, if the draw from remand is a Gift Ungiven, then Martin would have been able to cast it, which is just quite risky.
Yeah, but he did not draw a Gifts Ungiven. But Timo now sacrificing his Kalnu Heart Expedition using the Valakut. We just saw 2 mountains in play, kill both of your Goblin Electromancers. All of a sudden, all Martin Müller's spells are 2 mana more expensive.
However, Timo needs to he needs to pay 2 colors and 2 green next turn, which means only an untapped green source will allow him to. Or does he have 4 green? I think he has 4 green. Okay, an untapped mana source would allow him to recast the Titan.
Now Slate of Hand from Martin Müller. Let's take a look if he yet again finds enough Storm. He's doing some more counting. He needs to find 13, as we know. He's got 2 Desperate Rituals at least. Manamorphose he's gonna start with. Draw Gifts Ungiven.
Well, he's not trying to win this turn, right? He's just... yeah. Is it possible that he dies here? There's no way, right? Only against Scape Shift he would die.
Search for Tomorrow is not going to be enough. It's only 3 damage.
No, Timo really needed the untapped land, I think. Maybe even getting two more Valakuts. But Martin's draw is also not so great. He didn't find any lands, and now how many of his mana creatures got killed? 4?
4 of them already, yeah. He can do some nice tricks though. Desperate Ritual Splice onto Arcane. Storm is 1. I get 6 red mana. Yep, there we go. 6 red mana, no blue mana. Storm count is 1. Here we have a Desperate Ritual being it instant Arcane. If you have 2 of them, you can actually splice them onto each other. It will cost 4 mana in total and generate 6. But the advantage is that you still have the Desperate Ritual in your hand. Second Desperate Ritual got cast as well, going to 7 mana. Now Past in Flames. Storm count is 3, with plenty of cards in the graveyard. Storm count is 4 mana for Martin Müller. He needs to go up to Storm count 13, or maybe some remand shenanigans together with Grape Shot.
Yeah, I think most likely we will see these 13 points be dealt with a Grape Shot for 6, Grape Shot for 7, something along these lines.
Martin Müller finds his 4th copy of Goblin Electromancer. This means that all of the future spells will be 1 mana less. Goes up to 7 Storm with his last Desperate Ritual in the graveyard.
And that's actually enough, because now you put the trigger on the stack, you remand your Grape Shot.
Yeah, there we see remand from the graveyard and a scoop from Timo Halonen. He did get some time, but his draw was just too slow, especially because of the remand on the Primeval Titan. I think without the remand, he might have had the kill last turn. Well, it seems like these players are going to sideboard up. They do have some options in the sideboard. In the meantime, we're going to show you some ads, but don't run anywhere because there's more magic to come.
Please come at the right segment stage.
Welcome back in the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Copenhagen. I am Marijn Libbert, still joined by Simon Gertsen. As we saw, game one went to Martin Müller from Denmark. Kind of a hometown, I would say, Grand Prix. I'm not sure if he's from Copenhagen himself. We do have some more magic going on, so let's take a look at the second quarterfinal between Christian Ortiz Ros against Remy Lefrançois. Two graveyard-based decks, two kind of different strategies though, Simon.
Very different strategies, and I think Dredge will, in the long run, always generate more value with its graveyard. Christian has a few creatures there, but look at the Dredge side of the board.
Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3 Bloodghast, 3 Stinkweed Imp, 2 Neonate, and a Golgari Tug. And there's some priced Amalgam on the stack still. Looks like Remy Lefrançois is ready to pull the trigger on that Conflagrate. He's gonna discard 4, deal 4 to Christian Ortiz Ros, put him at 8. Does he have enough attackers? This does mean that the 2 Bloodghast are no longer summoning sick. 5 blockers for Christian Ortiz Ros, 2 Fulminator Mage, a Deadshot Minotaur, a Shriekmaw, and a Horror of the Broken Lands. Who do you think is favorite in this particular game?
I think Remy is favored, but I don't quite understand the Conflagrate for 4 to the face, because if you look at the board, I don't think it's a lethal attack. So to me, it seems, I don't know, it seems a little bit unnecessary.
3 Bloodghast get in. 2 of them get blocked by the Deadshot Minotaur and the Horror of the Broken Lands. The other one gets past defense though. So Christian now down to 6, and the 2 priced Amalgam come into play. But nothing he can do about all of these creatures. So many Stinkweed, kind of hard to overcome when you only have 5 creatures. They just jump in front of them, and even if Living End once again resolves, you have the same problem.
Yeah, I think the main problem for Living End is you want your Living End to be a Wrath of God, but the Dredge deck actually puts a lot of creatures into their graveyard very quickly. So the main advantage of having an army when your opponent has nothing after Living End is just not there.
And time to move back to our main match between Martin Müller and Timo Halonen. We saw Martin Müller win game 1. Is there something in the sideboard for Timo which could actually help him here?
Timo has a Chalice of the Void, 2 Relic of Progenitors, a Grafdigger's Cage, which I think are all reasonable. Also 2 Anger of the Gods. This is, in my opinion, an interesting question. Are you interested in killing those mana creatures with a mass removal spell? I think it's certainly an option.
It is an option, but what do you have to take out? I mean, all of your 2 mana accelerants are kind of crucial for your strategy. You cannot take out too many. I'm guessing the 1 Chandra Torch of Defiance could come out, but that's about it.
I agree. It's not easy. It's not an easy spot for Timo to play. And Martin Müller, we already said that this matchup is in his favor. He also doesn't have a lot of sideboard cards for this matchup, so nothing that preys on Titan Shift in particular.
And now slow start, another turn 1 cantrip for Martin Müller. Let's see if Timo goes with a turn 2 play. Seems like he's ready with an Explore. And we also have a result for the Danish and German people watching. Michael Steinecke up a game against Kim Stroh, so Counters Company up a game against Lantern Control. Not too surprised by that. Lantern Control, while it is good at locking the board, it still needs to find a way to stop the infinite combo from Counters Company.
Depending on the win condition, but still.
Yeah, but even if the win condition is the god, the green god, you can attack with, for example, a Birds of Paradise and just pump it infinite times.
Yep, so even Ensnaring Bridge not enough.
Now Explore and a Cinder Glade for Timo Halonen. He's on 3 lands, while Martin Müller still stuck on 1. He's gonna play his 2nd land. Let's see if he can find the Goblin, Electromancer or Baral, which are crucial for his strategy.
The nice thing is, now that you have so many of these creatures, You can actually run them out, and if your opponent destroys them, then you just play another one, and you play it for a slightly longer game. In the past, when you had only those 4 Goblin Electromancers, you needed to almost only play them in the combo turn. That was a lot harder. Martin Miller brought in a copy of Swan Song, so that's the level of sideboard hate that he's working with.
There we have Goblin Electromancer, a blue and a red, and you get a 2/2, which is already quite a deal. And all your instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. A Goblin Wizard, and as we were talking about Swan Song, counter target enchantment, instant or sorcery, so you get to counter, for example, Escape Shift for 1 blue mana. Your opponent does get a 2/2 bluebird in the trade. And another sweet one, Baral, Chief of Compliance, one of the newer cards in Modern. Also a commander staple. There we see it, legendary creature, human wizard for 1 and a blue. It's pretty much the same ability as Goblin Electromancer. Instant and sorceries cost 1 less to cast, but also another one. If a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card and discard a card. Are there any interactions with that ability in the deck?
Remand. That's the main way of generating some extra draws. Now with the Swan Song, actually, an additional way of activating that part of the ability.
And while Remand does not counter but return it to the hand, it's worded in that way that it says counter and return it to the hand, so it actually does trigger the Baral. Baral, in comparison with Goblin Electromancer, is a legend, so you cannot play 2 copies of it, whereas you can have 2 Goblin Electromancers in play. Kind of a disadvantage there.
Yes, but to be fair, if you have one of these out and your opponent allows you to untap, you're already very, very far ahead. As we noticed earlier, there are not so many cards that actually get reduced by 2 mana. Only the really expensive cards, Gifts Ungiven and Passing Flames. Oh, and of course there it's quite relevant.
5 mana for Timo Halonen. His basically 6 mana is the crucial number for him, of course, because that lets him play the Primeval Titan Scape Shift. For that you usually need 7 or 8 lands.
Yeah, depending on the life total of your opponent. But I think Scape Shift is not the main path for Timo. His main goal is to stick a Primeval Titan, which will win the game, and maybe shoot Baral in the process. It's just Muller's remands look absolutely amazing in this matchup.
Yeah, there we have the main plan for Timo Halonen. Can he find it, or does he once again not have the 6th land untapped? It seems like he's got to go for Sakura Tribal or Primeval Titan, as we see 4 and 2 green, a 6/6 trample, which is already quite big, but the most important ability when it comes into play, it searches for 2 lands which come into play tap, which of course then works very well with Valakut. Ooh, it seems like he does have the 7th land and the Escape Shift, but Remand is gonna make a stop to that. Does trigger Baral. Gonna draw 2 cards in total, 1 from the Remand, 1 from the Baral. Here we see it, counter target spell. If that spell is countered that way, put it into the hands of your opponent. But
and
now we're gonna storm.
Yeah, look how quickly he started to put his dice there to signify what's going on.
1 red, 2 blue. Thanks to Manamorphose costing only 1 mana, they generate a mana and draw a card, which is quite good. Now Gifts Ungiven for 3 mana, still 2 mana left, and so many cards in the graveyard already. I think the writing is on the wall here in this first quarterfinals of Grand Prix Copenhagen. Let's see if Martin Muller can find enough storm to kill his opponent. Desperate Ritual, Manamorphose, Past in Flames, and Grapeshot are Pyretic Ritual.
Yeah, but the important part is the Past in Flames, right? If Muller casts a Past in Flames here, then this game is basically over.
Because of the many cards in his graveyard. Goblin Electromancer, of course, not able to flashback, but Remand, Manamorphose, Gifts Ungiven, another one, can find another Grapeshot if needed, and plenty of mana to work with because of all the rituals.
At this stage, the decision what to give your opponent with the gifts ungiven was actually not relevant anymore. 1, 2, 3 mana only for Past in Flames, and that's just too good.
Another ritual where it's Storm number 6, Storm 7. Look at how quickly Martin is doing this. He's been doing it all weekend. Another Metamorphose gives him 1 more mana. 4 blue, 1 red. Wisely knowing that he only needs 1 red because of the cards like Desperate Ritual. Another Metamorphose. Storm is 10. Timu Halonen, not the matchup he wanted to be facing in this quarterfinals, but I'm guessing he's not too unhappy about qualifying for the Pro Tour in what I believe is also his first Grand Prix. Grape Shot, Remand, just as we did last time around. And there we have the handshake. Martin Müller from Denmark beats 2-0 Timu Halonen from Finland in what we seem to think was a pretty good matchup for him. But our players at the other tables, they are still playing, so we're going to show you more Magic in this quarterfinals of Grand Prix Copenhagen, and maybe we will show you more of Martin Müller in the semifinals. Usually we get to see both matches in the semifinals at least a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Martin Müller is in the bracket where he will be facing Mattia Rizzi or Gunnar Geisler, and both of these are on Death Shadow variant, so we will see Death Shadow against Storm in the semifinals.
And look at that, Christian Ortiz Ros might have found a way past the all of the creatures in the graveyard for Remy Lefrancois. Leyline of the Void on the battlefield, everything seems to be removed at this point, so Living End, finally the one-sided Red of God with an upside that he was looking for.
Yeah, so this is actually not looking too bad. He has an evasive creature in play. He has the Leyline. He could just get rid of the Stomping Ground. I don't hate that.
Registration are closing in 15 minutes, so please make your way to the registration desk. In 15 minutes.
But Remy does still find his third land. Let's see if he can find something else. He's only got 2 cards left in his hand. He hasn't put anything into play just yet, or maybe he did and they all died to Living End. Who will say?
But here, I mean, against Living End, you don't just hardcast Amalgams and hope to win. You need to find an answer to the Leyline. I don't know if Remy actually has one. Let's check in the deck list.
We do have his deck list, so we will take a look at it. Here we have it. Remy Lefrancois. We haven't seen many hate spells against the Leyline of the Void in his earlier
Abrupt Decay cannot target it. Ancient Grudge, Collective Brutality, Dark Blast, Gnaw to the Bone, Lightning Axe, Thoughtseize, and Vengeful Pharaoh. Remy is dead, is cold to a black Leyline. And the best part is Christian Ortiz Ros knows it from having access to the deck list.
That's clearly an advantage, so he just gotta hope that Christian Ortiz Ros doesn't find it in the consecutive mulligans, which he's definitely taking now that he knows that he's basically cold to it.
Yeah, also because I don't think you can play the regular Living End game if you don't have a trump like the Leyline. I would definitely just try to be as aggressive as possible.
And now with 2 creatures on the battlefield, Christian Ortiz thinks it's time for another Living End. He does have Fulminator Mage and another 4/4 in the graveyard, I believe.
Yeah,
not that many creatures though.
It's funny how the +1/+0 would also have been lethal, because Remy is on 4 with the swamp in play. I actually like that a little bit better than. Anyway, he would have gone through his deck, so that doesn't really matter.
And there we have the Living End. Living End is black because it doesn't have a mana cost, as you see. The only way to regularly play it from your hand is to suspend it with for 3. But of course, the way it works with Violent Outburst or Demonic Dread, you cascade until you reveal a card that is costed 3 or less. 3 or less. 2 or less. But there is none in your deck except for the Living End, so you always can cascade in the Living End. And what it does at that point, it sets all the creatures in play aside. These go to the graveyard, and the ones in the graveyard come into play. And because of Leyline of the Void, your opponent does not have any in the graveyard. 1-1 in this matchup. Who will be the king of the undead? Will it be Dredge or will it be Living End? How many Leyline of the Void? 4 copies in Christian Ortiz Ross sideboard.
Yep.
That will be the crucial part.
If I'm Christian Ortiz here, I mulligan to the black Leyline. Basically, yeah.
Till you find it?
Yeah, as much as it takes.
I wouldn't mulligan to 0, but you can definitely mulligan to 1 if you like. The chances once you get down to 5 or 4 cards get a little bit smaller, of course, because you have less cards. But it's a risk you need to take.
But you're not winning a regular game with 5 or 4 cards. So then you can just as well go to 1, and then you can say, okay, I tried, I didn't find it, I lost. Or if you find it, because you're a living end, you can also cycle all these creatures into your graveyard, and a single living end will win you the game. We just saw it. Rémi Lefrançois' deck will lose to the Leyline.
Do you keep the perfect non Leyline of the Void hand with, for example, 2 Simian Spirit Guides, a couple of Street Raids, Horror of the Broken Lands, and a Cascade spell?
Because it would be threatening a what, turn 3 kill?
Turn 2, animate like 4 big guys.
I mean, turn 2 is just not going to happen, right?
With a couple of Street Raids and
okay.
Simian Spirit Guide.
I turn 2. What would it be? Turn 2 on the draw. Yeah, you can keep that. I still think you're probably better off mulliganing for the Leyline.
Yeah, we wouldn't need Frank Karsten to do a little bit of mathematics here for us.
Monte Carlo simulation.
Aren't you a mathematician as well? You can do the calculations too.
I can write the code to simulate. Yes.
Well, we'll let you do that after the quarterfinals and tell us after that.
I'll take a break for 1 hour and then.
We don't have the time for that right here. These 2 players do have some time, as you can see. Since they're in the quarterfinals, they do have unlimited time. Of course, they still have to play at a reasonable pace.
Not unlimited. It's 99 minutes and 99 seconds.
Then why is the clock not ticking down? I think it's unlimited. And they should be able to finish in more than 1 hour and a half. Rémi Lefrançois against Christian Ortiz Ross. 2 Army of the Undead. 1 based on Living End, the other based on Dredging.
Yeah, and in their part of the bracket, they have Lantern against Counter's Company, and I believe the Company deck was 1-0 ahead of Lantern,
yep.
But this match has not been decided yet. So, well, both of these should be interesting matchups. One of the graveyard decks will play against Lantern or the new Connected Company deck.
It seems like both players are ready for game number 3 in the quarterfinals here at Grand Prix Copenhagen. It's gonna be a tough game 3 for Rémi Lefrançois if his opponent once again finds that Leyline of the Void. It's pretty much the most important. Well, turn 0 is pretty much when this quarterfinal is gonna get decided, I feel.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Living End is 0% in a regular game, but ultimately the Living End game plan just matches up so poorly against the Dredge game plan.
7 cards for Christian. Do we see a
Leyline?
Leyline. Is that game? How?
It's certainly a keep. I mean, I was proposing to mulligan down to 1 to find it, so I will take it.
He will take it, and we see a mulligan for Rémi Lefrançois. He's in bad shape here. He came with a risk. He knew he was dead to Leyline of the Void. Not a single cyber card over there that can actually handle it. A bit surprised.
That's interesting, yeah. Right? Why don't you put 2-3 Nature's Claim in your deck, in your sideboard?
Yeah, maybe he wasn't expecting too many Leyline of the Void. He's not running any of himself.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason. You are expecting to fly under the radar, right? When you picked Dredge for this tournament, you were thinking, yeah, I'm going to be one of 10, 20 people playing this deck, but I think it's closer to 100 people playing this deck here.
Yeah, I think he was more expecting, for example, Burn, as he's packing 3 Collective Brutality and a Gnot to the Bone. But while these players are mulliganing, let's take a look at the other quarterfinals that's still going. Kimstro on Lantern Control against Counter's Company, and how many permanents on the battlefield can you have? There's pitting needle, 2 pitting needle might be the most important ones, and together with a ensnaring bridge, meaning that Michael Steinecke cannot attack here.
He can't attack, and also his combo potential is shut off. I can't read what's written on the needles, but it has to be. Oh, and I think Michael is almost close to being decked here. If this is the graveyard, yeah.
Yeah, and there we see it, a scoop from Michael Steinecke. He loses game 2. At least he was up a game, so they're also moving to game number 3 in this quarterfinals of Grand Prix Copenhagen. Who do you think is favorite in this matchup?
I think this could be the weekend for Lantern Control. If you're asking me, it has all the tools to beat the Counters Company deck. I could see it beat a Graveyard deck. I could certainly see it beat a Death Shadow deck, for example. Kim Stroh might win this GP.
Players, as we know, get to see each other's deck list between sideboarding, so they know they have perfect information. But back we go to the Army of the Undead in Remy Lefrancois Dredge against Living and Christian Ortiz, and the signature card, well, not signature card, but in this matchup, the card that will decide pretty much everything. Leyline of the Void from Christian Ortiz on turn 0. Turn 2 is gonna be Cathartic Collective Brutality, discarding Cathartic Reunion, draining for 2 and taking a look at your hand. What do you have? What are you working with? Only 1 land, but quite some powerful cards there are in Brindlebore, Deadshot Minotaur, and Living End. Cycle the Minotaur, cycle the second copy, trying to find a second land, and he did find a second land. He's got quite some time.
Yes, and this is the consistency of the Living End deck. Your deck is lands and cyclers basically.
Yeah, it's easy to keep a 1 land hand with that deck. There's so many cards you can cycle for 1 mana, and you basically only need 3 lands to do whatever you want to do. And because so many of your cards cycle, you usually find that extra land after a couple of extra draws.
I think Christian can lose if he draws, for example, all of his Living Ends. That would be a way to lose this game. But then he can still just find 5-6 mana and hardcast his threats.
Yes. Verdant Catacomb searches out a Overgrown Tomb, 2 mana for Remy Lefrancois, 2 mana for Christian Ortiz Ros.
I'm quite sure that the life totals are not correct because one reason being that the Collective Brutality was escalated once.
No third land just yet. He does draw another Cascader. Is he going for it? He's already going for it, putting 2 Minotaurs in play, cascading till he finds a Living End. Might have to do some searching because he's also holding one. There we have it, Living End off a Demonic Dread. Away goes the Neonate. In play come the 2 Minotaur.
Yep, not the fastest cog, but 2, 3, 4 creatures against a deck which will have trouble to mount anything bigger. Actually, kind of a waste that these triggers from the Deadshot Minotaurs were missed. Not missed, didn't have a target because they are quite nice at picking off Stinkredeems as well.
And now that he's put into play two creatures, he's ready for the attack. Christian Ortiz Ros goes in for 6, putting Remy Lefrancois at 13 each now, but one player with the better board and the better game plan.
Yeah, this was probably 2 of the most one-sided post-board games we've seen, with the Leyline basically deciding the matchup, plus Remy not having a single answer in his 75.
He's gonna put up at least a little fight though. Here we have a Stinkredeem able to block one of the Minotaurs. Is he going to block it though? Because he might need it to actually kill Christian. Can I take a look at your graveyard? Horror of the Broken Lands. No more creature except for that. In the usual game, this would be a snap block, meaning that Remy could dredge after that or leave it in the graveyard to come to life with Living End, but with Leyline of the Void, that's just not an option. Stinkwood Imp will be gone forever. No block, Remy goes down to 7.
Keep in mind that 2 of Remy's strongest cards, Life from the Realm and Conflagrate, are also completely shut off.
Now a Brindlebore from Christian Ortiz-Ros. Sacrifice, he gains 4, meaning that Remy Lefrançois will need even more damage if he wants to kill Christian Ortiz.
Yeah, not the card I expected to see in this particular matchup, but maybe Christian decided that the Fulminator Mages were actually not good enough. If you don't have the Leyline, Remy will just have all the lands he wants thanks to Life from the Loam. And if you're planning to aggressively mulligan for the Leyline, it's also better to have the Brindlebore to keep you alive and to make to just buy time until your creatures come down.
And this seems to be pretty much over. I believe some more quarterfinals are going. We're going to show you these after this game. Just gonna look at the end of it just to make sure we don't miss anything. But the match between Kim Stroh and Michael Steinecker is still going, so hopefully we get to see a little bit of that one after this. Remy thinking about the attack there with Price Tamalgan. At least he's putting up a fight. Like he could have been like, yeah, I can't win, but he's giving up. He's not giving up. He's just trying to find a way. You never know. Demonic Dread could actually be lethal here.
Yeah, Demonic Dread and also Volcanic Outburst. Violent Outburst, excuse me.
And since he's still at 7, it's not even that risky. He doesn't die on the backswing. Cascade, I'm not gonna play it. Living End, of course, he does not have to play it. He can choose not to play it. He's gonna show the Living End, but he's not gonna play it. Remy Lefrançois is reading the Demonic Dread. It says target creature cannot block this turn. This means that Christian got lethal, and there we have the handshake. 2-1, Christian Ortiz-Ros. What a complete turnaround. He knew he was not in good shape when facing Dredge, so he needed a good plan, and a good plan he had in the form of 4 Leyline of the Void. If only Remy Lefrançois would have had a plan to beat that card. Seems like he had not a single one, but he did still pretty well, right? XN2 in his first Grand Prix with Dredge, qualifying for the Pro Tour. I'm sure he's gonna enjoy beautiful Japan in a couple of months. But let's take a look if we can move over to our next match, as these players are still going. I see it's gonna take some time to set us up, but after that we should be moving back to Michael Steinecke against Kim Stroh in what is the last feature match going in the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Copenhagen.
From our 3 cameras, we showed you first Martin Müller beating Timo Halonen, Storm against Titan Shift. Now we saw Living End beat Dredge with those sideboard cards. So Christian Ortiz-Ros is advancing against Remy Lefrançois. And the final camera table is Kim Stroh with Lantern Control against Michael Steinecke with Collected Company plus Vizier combo.
Oh, it seems like we have moved 2 more players to our feature match area, to the on-camera matches. Mattia Rizzi is playing against Gunnar Geisler in what seems to be a Dead Shadow mirror, but 2 actually completely different versions. One, Grixis Dead Shadow, kind of regular, which we seem to get known. Gunnar Geisler with something like a brew to me, with Dead Shadow Zoo with 4 Renegade Rallier.
Yep, it's it's an interesting take on the archetype. It's not primarily a Death Shadow deck like the other decks, but he's just putting this powerful card into a zoo shell.
Thoughtseize hits the Thoughtseize 1-1 with Gunnar Geisler was on the play. So Mattia Rizzi on the draw with a turn 1 Thoughtseize. Let's take a look if these players can find some threats to put on the board. Who do you think is actually favored in this matchup, looking at the two pretty much completely different builds?
So I have not seen or played with the Death Shadow Zoo deck of Gunnar Geisler. So what I see here is still two Death Shadow decks, where in the end it's going to be the most important question: who can keep Death Shadow on the battlefield? And that means you have to basically evaluate removal, discard, and Death Shadows. So I think Mattia Rizzi's deck has the harder removal because it's just playing more black cards. For example, the 3 fatal pushes. That's something that Gunnar Geisler I don't think has access to. Discard. Also, I think maybe even after sideboarding, and then Death Shadows. Well, both of these deck lists actually have no way of getting additional Death Shadows out of the deck, if I see this correctly. However, there I have to give it to Gunnar Geisler because he has Renegade Rallier. So if he resolves those with Revolt, he actually gets more and more Death Shadows onto the battlefield.
Of course, that is not taking into account the card Mattia Rizzi just played Nihil Spellbomb. Good way to get rid of these creatures in the graveyard. Make sure that a Renegade Rallier does not get any back.
This is actually a really weird game because nobody's really doing anything, which is, I would say, a bit untypical. So what's playing a little bit in Gunnar's favor is the fact that he will try to be aggressive, but also he has a lot of reach. He can cast those Tribal Flames for 5. And Mattia Rizzi has to be really careful once he's on 10 to not just die out of the blue.
He's going for Renegade Rallier with just a land to get back. No creature in the graveyard, just as a 3-2. Does it resolve, he says? Can I get back my land?
This is a nice bait for the spell bomb. You kind of know that the spell bomb will generate some value at some point, so why not just see if you can get your land out of the graveyard?
Like Mattia Rizzi is going for it. The name is there on the scoreboard. Of course, wrong. This is not Kim Stroh against Michael Steinecke. This is Mattia Rizzi against Gunnar Geisler. The match, yeah, there we have it. 17-16 in the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Copenhagen. Mattia Rizzi is still responding to the Renegade Rallier. He's looking at his hand and his deck to find a land with the Bloodstained Mire. Of course, making sure he does not pick the wrong land. He's going for a Blood Crypt. Take 2. Move to 14. And then sacrifice. Just making sure that Gunnar Geisler does not get a land. So at least Gunnar got rid of the Nihil Spellbomb with his first Renegade Rallier.
Yes, and it's the question how impactful that spellbomb really was, because as you can see, only the Ralliers care about the graveyard in Gunnar's deck.
And the Tarmogoyfs?
Well, the Tarmogoyfs also see Rizzi's graveyard, so
Yep.
that's not that much of a concern. But most importantly, there are no Traverse the Overworld, which are the big reason to bring in the spellbomb in the mirror.
Here we have the hand of Gunnar Geisler. 2 Renegade Rallier, Mutagenic Growth, and Dismember. So enough ways to lower his own life, but no way to put up some pressure so far.
Yeah, really weird hand, because that many Ralliers is definitely too much.
One goes away. Still 3 left for Gunnar. There we have him. Mattia Rizzi considering his options. He's at 14, so playing that shadow not an option yet. It becomes an option when he takes 2 from the Lando, but he's going for collective brutality first. -2 to your rallier and get rid of the dismember, meaning that Gunnar Geisler is left with pretty much nothing.
Yeah. Would you have saved your Rallier there with mutagenic growth?
Just to keep it 3-2.
3-2 instead of a pump spell that has very little impact, if you ask me.
Might have been a good option. There we have collective brutality, the card that was just played with escalate 1. If you discard 1 card, you can choose 2 options. He chose the first one and the second one. Target creature gets -2/-2, which was the Rallier, and then target opponent reveals his or her hand. You can choose an instant or sorcery. As long as I remember, Dismember is an instant, so that one goes to the graveyard. Now Thoughtseize is a good pickup there for Gunnar, actually, finding a way to deal with the Death Shadow.
Yeah, but now you also see this this Snapcaster Mage. Actually, another value card that Gunnar himself does not have access to. Yeah, looking at this board, I think I would have liked Gunnar to have a 3-2 in play. It's not great, but at least it gives you a shot at maybe winning by drawing some burn spells, and just putting pressure on your opponent has to be good. Now you're even risking to be Thoughtseized again, and just losing your Rallier that way.
Mattia Rizzi considering his options there. He can go for the Snapcaster Mage, going for another discard spell, or hold on to the Snapcaster Mage, maybe for removal in the later turns. The other card, Stubborn Denial, not very effective right now without any creature on the battlefield. But it seems like Mattia Rizzi might have a question for the judge. So looking at this particular state, we know both players' hands. Which one do you like more?
I like Rizzi's position more. He has, I think he is the slightly more controlling deck in this matchup, based on the composition of these two players' decks, and this means an empty board on turn 4 or 5 of the game is just a good position to be in. Also, the fact that he has the Snapcaster in hand, he knows exactly what Gunnar Geisler is working with. And like I said, I don't think it would be wrong to just use the Snapcaster here for a little bit of value. However, it is correct that having access to it later is also valuable. I just don't see the removal. That he's going to flashback. I think this is a really clean way of playing. You don't want this Rallier in Gunnar's hand anyway. You have to expect that Gunnar draws, for example, creature, let's say a Tarmogoyf, and then you're still forced to get rid of the Rallier because it's going to threaten to take back the creature, to get back the creature.
Gunnar did draw a Death Shadow there.
Yeah, another disadvantage of not having cast that mutagenic growth earlier.
The disadvantages are stacking up here. Or Simon is just finding a way to say he was right. Snapcaster Mage now facing off a 1/1 Death Shadow. Mattia Rizzi finds kind of a useless card in the form of Thoughtseize, with the hand of Gunnar empty at the moment. Stubborn Denial not too good either. We could have actually a game with these draws lining up.
Yep, and now if Gunnar draws ways to deal damage to himself, then Mattia needs to draw something, otherwise he's going to be losing quite quickly.
Talking about ways to deal yourself damage, Street Raid is just pretty much the perfect draw there. Making your Death Shadow a 3/3.
Just big enough to put pressure on your opponent. Now, there is something in these matchups, in the Death Shadow mirror, you always have to consider if it's safe to actually go on offense. Because what happens if Mattia draws a Death Shadow? Okay, this is a clear answer if you ask me. Gunnar is going for the throat here.
He could also target himself. Get a bigger Death Shadow.
It's a legal play, yes. It's not out of the question. I think the fact that there is the Snapcaster Mage to chump block makes it less attractive.
He's going for Mattia Rizzi. Mattia Rizzi down to 7. Now still facing the 3-3. Is he going down to 4? Checking his graveyard. There we have it. Tribal Flames. Tribal Flames deals X damage to target creature or player. So could target the Snapcaster Mage or both players, where X as the number of basic land types among lands you control. And as we can see, blue from Steam Vents, red from Steam Vents, white from Sacred Foundry, and green and black from Overgrown Tomb. That's 5. That's 5 damage to the face. Mattia Rizzi down to 4. Can he find an answer to that Death Shadow?
No, he just drew it. But not blocking with the Snapcaster Mage also an ambitious play, because a second copy of Tribal Flames will just lose him the match here.
Not a second copy just yet. We're gonna have some more turns. Gunnar Geisler slowly going down. He's at 6 life. Mattia Rizzi at 4. Holding 2 Thoughtseize and a Stubborn Denial. Has to say go.
And what this could come down to is whether Gunnar Geisler finds a Tribal Flames first, or Mattia Rizzi finds a 4 power creature so that his Stubborn Denial is live.
Gunnar Geisler draws. Gives it a little bit of thought. Renegade Rallier just as a 3-2.
This has been the worst Renegade Ralliers I've ever seen. I don't think a single one of them triggered.
The first one was attempting to trigger, but Nihil Spellbomb put an halt to that.
Okay, half a trigger, let's call it. Half a trigger out of 4.
Mattia Rizzi, he drew what I believe Lightning Bolt. Do you kill off the Renegade Rallier so you can keep attacking with the Snapcaster Mage?
I think yes. It's a 3-turn clock, but I don't see how you're gonna get a better target for Lightning Bolt here. And you don't have the time to play for a longer game. Now that when you decided to go onto 4 life, you basically made this decision that you will be able to have to close this game out quickly.
Mattia Rizzi is still giving it some thought. Lightning Bolt, a second Lightning Bolt or a Snapcaster Mage would mean he could kill Gunnar. The Renegade Rallier does get stopped by Snapcaster Mage. Seems like he's just attacking there.
But Gunnar has to block,
choice.
right? The Gunnar's 3-2 I think is not good enough on this battlefield.
Seems like Gunnar is just gonna take it.
I don't like it.
Goes to 4.
Don't like this decision at all.
Maybe he's holding another copy of Mutagenic Growth, hoping to kill Mattia Rizzi.
But now he has to know that Mattia was contemplating what could be a Lightning Bolt. So you cannot expose yourself to just dying to a Lightning Bolt like that.
Both players at 4 life in the quarterfinals. This game is about to be over in 1 or 2 turns. Let's take a look who's gonna win. Gunnar Geisler on Death Shadow Zoo, kind of a brew, with 4 Renegade Rallier and 4 Tribal Flames, or the more classic Grixis Death Shadow from Mattia Rizzi, a deck that's been around for a while now. Snapcaster Mage facing off Renegade Rallier. Gunnar Geisler is gonna take a look at his hand. How should I play this? This is definitely tough. We have information which both of these players do not have. Mattia Rizzi is still holding 4 cards, so this could be anything as far as Gunnar goes. He's thinking about attacking there. In comes the Renegade Rallier. You go down to 1.
If you don't block, that's the reason, right? The reason is Gunnar wanted to attack.
Call against command now. Snapcaster Mage puts Gunnar at 2. Lightning Ball you. Do you have an answer? No, he does not. Oh, wow. Such a strange ending to this very interesting match. Gunnar Geisler could have blocked her on the Snapcaster Mage, but instead he went for the aggressive play, putting Mattia Rizzi down to 1. But Mattia Rizzi was happy with that. Lightning bolt to the face. Gunnar Geisler goes to -1 and loses the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Copenhagen.
One is not 0.
One is not 0. And luckily, we always have Lantern Control still playing.
Yep, no downtime this GP. We'll always have a match to go to.
Well, not for very long. There we have it. We had a lot of permanents in play from both of these players, but it was Kim Stroh beating Michael Steinecke in the last quarterfinals of Grand Prix Copenhagen. That means the quarterfinals just came to an end. We have 4 winners and 4 losers. The 4 winners, Mattia Rizzi, Martin Müller, Christian Ortiz-Ross and Kim Stroh. The 4 losers, which go home with a qualification for the Pro Tour, not too bad either. Gunnar Geisler, Timu Halonen, Remy Lefrançois, Michael Steineken. Still 4 different archetypes in the semifinals. We pretty much knew that going into the quarterfinals. Who's your favorite here? Dead Shadow, Grixis, Storm, Living End, or Lantern Control?
I think that Martin Müller will have a hard time against Death Shadow Grixis. On paper, the Death Shadow Grixis deck I think is favored in that matchup. And regarding the Graveyard decks against Lantern, I don't know how exactly this is going to work out, but I really want to see Lantern win.
So you want Lantern to win. As a favorite, I will pick Martin Müller. He's going to overcome the bad matchup in Dead Shadows Grixis and then beat Lantern Control, as that deck has not really a way to stop the Storm deck. But with that, the quarterfinals is over. We're going to give our players some time to get ready for the semifinals, as we see them still discussing a little bit. After the messages, we will be back with you guys with 2 more matches and the final after that. So don't you run anywhere.